Fu Chun. Nan Xian's voice was calm, but it seemed as if there was a brewing storm beneath it. Kill. Kill all of them. Nan Xian rose slowly, holding Feng Ruqing in his arms. Feng Ruqing wanted to find Xiaoya, but he did not want to find anyone. The only one in his heart was Feng Ruqing. He would not let any of them go. Feng Lianyi smiled coldly. She was already satisfied that she could drag Feng Ruqing down before she died. She had no regrets. Suddenly, an angry voice came with a monstrous rage. Lu Yi, you bastard. This voice was so familiar to everyone present. Some people were quietly relieved, and their faces were not as tense as before. Nan Xian held the young girl in his arms tightly and stepped out of the hall. You've taken Mother away, then you stay here. Do not let any of them leave until I return with Qing'er. Nan Xian calmly walked toward the door without looking back. He had to take Qing'er to a quiet place and then settle the man trying to take over her body for her. Therefore, he did not have time to pay attention to matters here. He left all these matters to Fu Chun to settle it. The moment Nan Xian walked out of the gate, he happened to cross paths with the general. The old general was dressed in red, and his face was full of anger, but he froze after seeing the two people passing by his side. Why are you here? Wait. Nan Xian did not stop and walked away. The old man glanced at the woman's pale face, and somehow, his heart ached. He had wanted to catch up with them and ask what was going on, but feeling the man's indifferent gaze, he still stopped, somewhat wincing. General. Feng Lianyi was finally relieved after she saw that the general had returned. Her bloody face was raised in a shallow curve, looking a little scary. You have returned. The general was back, so she would be safe this time. Good. Maiden Feng, me for extra chapters. Feng Lianqing also happened to walk in. He was covered in blood, and even the sword in his hand was dripping blood. He was stunned, and his face turned pale as he saw Feng Ruqing in Nan Xian's arms. What's wrong with Maiden Feng? Feng? Tianya had forgotten the purpose of him returning to General Manor. He looked slightly confused at the two figures that had just left and frowned. Her surname is also Feng. What a coincidence. Suddenly, Tianya seemed to have thought of something. He turned his head and looked at Lu Yi furiously. Lu Yi, who allowed you to let him out in public? Lu Yi lowered his head. He knew that he had disobeyed the general, but he did it to protect Maiden Lianyi, and he did not regret it. General, I know I was wrong. Tianya was so angry that he wanted to knock this bastard to death. Where is that bastard Fu Li? Lu Yi tried to explain something, but his mind suddenly went blank. General's words just now. Did General know that woman? Grandfather Tianya. Helian, you sneered. Feng Lianyi framed Xiao Qing, and your man has blindly attacked Xiao Qing. Do you still want to keep such a person in General Manor? Xiao Qing. Tianya was somewhat confused. Maiden Feng, whom Brother Lianqing was talking about just now. Her name is Feng Ruqing. Feng Ruqing. These three words, like thunder, exploded in Tianya's mind. His old memories instantly invaded and spread all over his mind. Tinwu, this time, I will not be able to wait until you and Yin'er get married. I have to leave. If you have a girl in the future, name her Ruqing, which means beautiful. I hope she will become a lovely girl and will be loved by everyone in this world. General, seeing that Helian was trying to say something, Feng Lianyi immediately wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said, Actually, I saw the little prince bullying the people outside the palace. I advised him not to, but he attacked me. Then, the emperor had accidentally hit Princess Qing'er when he tried to stop the little prince, but Feng Ruqing blamed me for this. She also threatened the man who was bullied by the little prince. She forced him to admit that I was the one who ordered him to harm the little prince. I have endured so much pain over the years, bullied by the little prince. Have I ever fought him back? Do you think I would do such a thing? Her eyes reddened. I'd always admit my mistakes when I've done something wrong. But now I didn't do anything wrong this time, so I'll never admit it. Her eyes were full of determination, with a tenacity that she would rather die than give up. Helian stared hard at Feng Lianyi and sneered. Manipulating others. Only Feng Lianyi can do it. Feng Lianyi. The empress' gaze was cold, and her voice was stern. Feng Liani gritted her teeth. Empress, I know that you are concerned about the little prince and want to put all the blame on me, but I did not do that. Indeed. The Empress' words were the most unreliable here. The little prince was her son, and she had always been protective and spoiled him, so she would definitely side him now. Of course, if it had been before, those young ladies and young masters of Wushang City would have believed Feng Liani. But now, after what had happened in the banquet hall, they all remained silent. They looked at her sardonically. Lu Yi looked at Feng Liani with genuine sympathy. He had never thought that Feng Ruqing would hurt Feng Liani for the little prince's sake. Everyone knew the little prince was very vicious. So, Lu Yi believed that Liani was innocent. General, Maiden Liani is right. Lu Yi raised his head and said, I also know what had happened the other day. The little prince did hurt someone. Maiden Liani only followed what General had taught her. She loves people with all her heart. But Feng Ruqing has done so many bad things to Maiden Liani. So even if General will blame me this time, I will never regret what I've done. Me for extra chapters. The others were no longer on Feng Liani's side. Only Lu Yi was still backing her up. Feng Lian, he looked at him gratefully. She would always remember his favor and would never mistreat him in the future. Moreover, General, your jade necklace was stolen by the little prince, and he gave it to that woman. What's funny is, she said that she traded a jug of wine with an old man for it. If that old man really had such a spirit-gathering stone, would he be foolish enough to trade it just for a jug of wine? The foolish old man who traded his spirit-gathering stone for a jug of wine. After he heard the name Feng Ruqing, the general's mind went blank. Only the young girl's pale face appeared on his mind, and it made his heart tremble. However, when he heard Feng Liani's words, the old man slowly came out of his shock and smirked. He walked toward Feng Liani, his aura like a giant mountain, making everyone in the banquet hall fall silent. Did you just say a jade necklace? Feng Liani was dumbfounded. She looked at the old man's angry face and suddenly seemed to understand something. She smirked. It seems that this necklace is very important to General, and no one can touch it. He'll not let even the little prince go this time. Yes, the little prince has stolen your jade necklace and given it to Feng Ruqing, Feng Liani said. Feng Liani. Qi Fang's face was cold, and his eyes were like swords, staring fiercely at Feng Liani. He had made up this story to save Feng Ruqing's life, but this fool, Feng Liani, took it seriously. If Tian Ya's necklace was lost, and if he insisted on investigating this matter, Qi Fang was afraid that Maiden Feng would be in danger. Tianya closed his eyes slowly and leaned against the banquet hall's door. The moonlight was bright and cold. Feng Liani. Feng Lianqing walked in through the door as his eyes were filled with anger. What are you talking about? Maiden Feng isn't like that. I've only been away for a little while, and there's been so much chaos. I thought you were genuinely repentant, but I didn't expect that you still don't want to let Maiden Feng go. Tianya slowly opened his eyes. Her voice was cold and deep. Feng Lianqing, you shut up. His voice echoed throughout the banquet hall, shocking everyone present. The Empress clenched her fists tightly. There would not have been so much chaos if Qi Fang had agreed to kill Feng Liani before Tianya returned. Everyone looked so worried, except for Feng Liani, who was filled with joy. It seems that General is really angry this time. General even hit Big Brother Feng because of his rage. Even if Feng Ruqing is still alive, General will never let her go. He'll ask you again. Tianya took a deep breath. Is her name Feng Ruqing? Feng Lianqing lowered his head. Yes. This answer should have made Tianya excited and joyful, but his heart trembled as he thought of the pale and lifeless face of Feng Ruqing. Endless rage suddenly filled his heart, as if it could lose his sanity, for extra chapters. No wonder. He had a fondness for a strange girl, not only because the girl was beautiful. Neither was she a well-behaved girl, but her eyes looked so similar to Nailan Yan's. He did not notice it when they met for the first time. He only felt that she was kind and made him want to know her better. She's Feng Ruqing, my dearest granddaughter. It's not a grandson, it's a granddaughter. But because of his negligence, She had to suffer so much pain and grievance. Louis, where's the soul? Tianya turned to look at Louis, trembling. He only needed one answer. Louis was stunned and replied respectfully, "That soul has already gone to possess Feng Rooking's body. I guess it has succeeded. General, you don't have to thank me. It's my duty to protect Maiden Lieni and General Manor." Before he could finish speaking, Tianya had already swung his fist at Louis's chest. With a thud, Louis's body flew out and crashed against the wall. Louis tried to crawl out of the wall, coughing. His face was pale, and he looked confused. "General, he'll kill you later." Tianya did not have the time to kill Louis because he was so worried about Feng Ruching. Nanxian's cold gaze had scared him just now, and he did not dare to follow them. If he had known that she was his granddaughter, Feng Ruching, Tianya walked away, leaving the banquet hall. General, Feng Lieni did not understand what was happening and quickly followed Tianya. It was as if Tianya had eyes on his back, and the wind suddenly surged out like a wave in the sea, sending Feng Lieni flying backward. She was already seriously injured, and this made her cry out in pain. Her pale face was filled with puzzlement, not understanding what she had done wrong. Suddenly, a gust of gentle wind blew. Fu-chan was suddenly in front of Tianya, stopping him from leaving the banquet hall. "You can't go. State Preceptor will save Mother." "Mother?" Tianya stopped and looked at the little guy in front of him, shocked. This guy, he's not a little child anymore. He looks like a 10-year-old boy. Some asshole got my granddaughter pregnant at such a young age? And this little guy is a spirit herb. Is she being bullied by a spirit herb? "Hey kid, who are you? Get out of my way." Tianya had never been kind to boys. "You can't go there. You have to stay here. Father will save Mother. Tianya must stay here. Get out of my way." Tianya's voice was cold. Fu-chan stubbornly refused to move. "You can't go. Only he can save Mother. No one else can do anything about it." Tianya's face darkened. He wanted to slap this little thing aside, but did not do so as he remembered that this boy was his granddaughter's son. "Are you sure he can?" Tianya asked, uncertainly. "Me for extra chapters. Only he can do it," Fu-chan assured. That was because he was Nan Chongfeng. He was the 9th Emperor's lover. Fu-chan had heard their story countless times, but had never met him. He was the only one who could save the 9th Emperor. Tianya stared at the little guy's stubborn face. He was somewhat reluctant, but eventually stepped back inside the banquet hall. General, he had finally climbed out of the hole in the wall. He once again spat a mouthful of blood. His body was a bit shaky as he walked toward Tianya and kneeled in front of him. "General, I don't understand. Please tell me if I've done something wrong. I'm willing to be punished, but Maiden Lieni, she has never done anything wrong. She's innocent." "Innocent? Ha ha ha." Tianya laughed wildly. "Feng Lianqing, come here." Feng Lianqing was dumbfounded. Why is Master calling for me? But he still obediently ran to Tianya's side and replied respectfully, "Master, I'm here." What has Feng Lieni been doing in Wushang City these past few days? Tianya's words caused Feng Lieni to raise her head, panicked. "Oh, I lost the little prince at that time, and he almost died because of that." Feng Lieni blamed Feng Ruching for this, and almost caused trouble for her. Slap! Tianya lifted his hand and slapped Feng Lianqing's handsome face, smacking him out of the way. Helian Yu quickly turned her head, somewhat unwilling to watch it. If Feng Ruching were not in danger now, she would have already laughed out loud. "Who asked you to speak for Feng Lieni the other day?" "Serve you right." "Master! Master!" Feng Lianqing covered his face and stood up. "I know I was wrong. Tianya sneered. "I shouldn't have lost the little prince." Tianya did not wait for Feng Lianqing to finish his words. He raised his hand and slapped him again, causing him to fall a few meters away. Everyone in the banquet hall trembled. General Tianya was a decent and honest old man. No one had ever seen him look so furious like he was today. Even his eyes were so fierce and filled with murderous intent. Feng Lianqing was shocked. His left and right cheeks were swollen and red. He thought about it and moved toward Tianya again. This time, before he could reach Tianya, he saw Tianya already raising his hand again. "Master!" Feng Lianqing screamed and hurriedly cowed out. "Master, please tell me if I've made any mistakes. I will change for you. I won't do it again." It was so terrifying. His master's angry face was like the king of hell, killing people every minute. "Have you forgotten what you told me when we were in the Spirit Beast Mountain? Now get out of here. Get out of my way." Tianya clenched his fists tightly. If Feng Lianqing was not his disciple, he would have killed him now. Feng Lianqing was so scared that he rolled to the side, covered his face, and started to think about what he had told his master back then. "What have I told master in the Spirit Beast Mountain?" He just reported what Feng Lianyi had done when his master was not around. And he even pleaded for Feng Lianyi. Plead for Feng Lianyi? A shiver ran down Feng Lianqing's spine as he looked at Tianya in shock. His mind suddenly clear now. At this moment, he finally understood why his master was so angry with him for extra chapters. But why? Even if master hated what Feng Lianyi had done, he was just pleading for her. So why should he be angry with him? "Feng Lianyi." Tianya stood in front of Feng Lianyi and looked at the woman lying on the ground coldly and expressionlessly. Feng Lianyi's face was pale. She gritted her teeth tightly and spoke timidly. "General, bang." Tianya lifted his hand, dragged Feng Lianyi's lapels, and threw her to the ground. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. "You've become so cruel. You caused trouble and kept making new, unforgivable mistakes. You've been so well-behaved all these years, and finally, you've shown your true colors. I shouldn't have brought you in back then." Feng Lianyi was stunned. Tears of grievance flowed from her eyes. "The incident with the little prince back then was indeed my fault, but Feng Ruching is not a good person. She complotted with the little prince to steal your jade necklace, and made up such a stupid lie." Snap! Tianya smashed Feng Lianyi hard on the ground, causing her bones to crack painfully. The crowd in the banquet hall was all confused. Shouldn't General be angry at Feng Ruching? Why would he treat Feng Lianyi this way? Suddenly, the crowd remembered how General had treated Fu Chun just now, and they looked even more confused. "Ha, stupid lie?" Tianya laughed wildly. "So, in your eyes, it was a foolish and ridiculous act for me to trade my jade necklace for some wine?" Boom! Tianya's words were like a thunderstorm that blew up Feng Lianyi's mind. Trade a jade necklace for wine? Did General really trade his jade necklace for wine? Impossible. General has no reason to do that. "General, what are you talking about? I don't understand. The jade necklace is so important to you." The old housekeeper looked at Feng Lianyi and then at Tianya as if he somewhat understood something. He sneered and said, "Yes, the jade necklace is so important to you, General. You couldn't have just given it to someone else. Just now, Maiden Lianyi said that you had given it to her, but suddenly the jade necklace that you gave to her is found inside young Lady Helian's dress." Helian Yu was dumbfounded. With her brain, she really could not see that the old housekeeper was being sarcastic. She stomped her foot and hurriedly explained, "Grandfather Tianya, don't listen to their nonsense. Feng Lianyi's jade necklace is made of obsidian stone. She framed Xiao Qing and me and claimed that we have stolen her necklace. Grandfather Tianya, you're a wise man. You will not believe it, right?" Tianya closed his eyes, trembling. His granddaughter had come to him, but she was treated like this? As soon as Tianya opened his eyes, a murderous aura diffused the banquet hall. The housekeeper is right. This jade necklace is very important to me. How could I have given such an important item to an outsider like Feng Lianyi? Outsider. This word made Feng Lianyi's face turn paler. She lifted her head and stared at Tianya. She had spent so many years in General Manor, and in the end, she was only an outsider. "Do you know why I gave a jade necklace to Feng Ruching?" "Well, I'll tell you now. Because Feng Ruching. She's my granddaughter. She's my dearest granddaughter. Feng Ruching is my granddaughter. She's my dearest granddaughter." This sentence exploded in Feng Lianyi's mind, and it would not go away for a long time. Her eyes were filled with shock as she quickly turned to Tianya. "Impossible. This is impossible. General, You must be mistaken. How could someone like Feng Ruqing be? Feng Lianyi suddenly fell silent. A cold, murderous aura enveloped her, causing her to tremble in fear. Feng Lianking's mouth was so wide open that he could stuff an egg inside it. Me for extra chapters. The shock in his eyes was so obvious and unbelievable. Master said, Feng Ruqing, she is his granddaughter? He suddenly thought of Tian Ya's furious rage just now. If Feng Ruqing was really his granddaughter, then he actually deserved to be slapped by Tian Ya. General Tian Ya, what did you just say? Qi Feng was stunned. It was too shocking. Feng Ruqing, she's my granddaughter, my long-lost granddaughter. It's a shame that I didn't recognize her when I first saw her so much, so that she had to suffer so much bullying and harm. Tian Ya glanced at everyone present, and his gaze finally stopped at Lu Yi's face. Lu Yi took a few steps back. His body could no longer even stand firm. Feng Ruqing, she's General's granddaughter? Well, I've killed General's granddaughter. He liked Feng Lianyi, but General was his savior. Without General Tian Ya, he would have died a long time ago, and he would never have gotten what he had today. General, a cold sweat broke out on Lu Yi's forehead. He raised his hand and wiped it timidly. I didn't know she's your... Get out. Tian Ya kicked Lu Yi out, refusing to listen to his nonsense. He glanced at the people present again, and this time his cold gaze fell on Feng Lianyi. Feng Lianyi's head buzzed like 1,000 thunderbolts. She clenched her fists tightly, her heart aching to the point it was numb. Feng Ruqing is General's granddaughter. She's her granddaughter. No, I don't believe it. Feng Lianyi. Tian Ya's face was expressionless, his voice cold and harsh. Do you know how strong the blood ties are? I didn't recognize her at first glance, but I still felt affectionate. That's why I gave her the jade necklace. And it was something that belonged to her. I didn't have the time to give it to Feng Tianwu back then, and I was afraid that he wouldn't be able to keep something precious like the spirit-gathering stone. Tian Ye had already been making preparations even before Feng Tianwu got married, and he had stolen the spirit-gathering stone from the chief manor of Tianshan Manor. But in the end, he still did not pass it to Feng Tianwu, because he knew that Feng Tianwu would get in so much trouble if he kept the spirit-gathering stone with him. Even the one from Tianshan Manor who lost the spirit-gathering stone cried to death, and had come to Tian Ye several times, fighting with him to get the stone back, which showed. What kind of disaster would be brought to Luyun Kingdom if the world knew about the spirit-gathering stone? Perhaps. Even the rules that he had set back then could not stop the fight to get this precious item. In the end, after going round and round, the spirit-gathering stone finally returned to its rightful owner. Great. Feng Lianyi's face turned pale. She froze and fell to the ground helplessly. Feng Lianyi, I took you back then, and today I will kill you with my own hands. No one can bully my precious granddaughter. No one. Feng Lianqing was dumbfounded. Me for extra chapters. Maiden Feng, she's Master's granddaughter. Feng Lianyi had done such a disgusting thing, and he went to plead with Maiden Feng for her. Perhaps Maiden Feng did not kill him back then because she respected his master. This time, looking at Tian Ya's eyes, which were already filled with murderous intent, Feng Lianqing did not say another word and remained silent. Feng Lianyi never learned from her mistakes and continued to do evil. Even if Feng Ruqing were not his master's granddaughter, he would still choose to trust Feng Ruqing and would not plead for Feng Lianyi again. After all, what Feng Lianyi had done was unforgivable. A long sword suddenly appeared in front of Tian Ya. Feng Lianyi trembled, and she crawled over to Tian Ya in panic. Her voice cracked. General, I've done nothing wrong. I offended the little prince only to save the innocent. It was Feng Ruqing. She knew that she was your granddaughter and had used it to threaten him and put all the blame on me. As for the jade necklace, I know nothing about it. Indeed, it was all Qi Fang's fault. Qi Fang had made her misunderstand and say such words in front of General. She was innocent, insolent. With monstrous energy, Tian Ya brought his long sword down, cutting off Feng Lianyi's arm. Blood stained Feng Lianya's sleeves, and the pain made her face paler. She looked like she was about to faint. But somehow, even though she was in pain, there was a faint fragrance of spirit herb wafting under her nose, making her unable to faint. Fu Chan sneered as he looked down at Feng Lianyi, who was lying on the ground. No one else could see it. There was a faint green mist on his fingertips. Everyone in the banquet hall was wide awake, all because of this mist. Feng Lianyi, you've made a lot of mistakes, and how dare you frame my precious granddaughter? Tianya stepped forward, approaching Feng Lianyi. My granddaughter is always right. You are the one to be blamed. There is no way my granddaughter would do such a thing, and I won't blame her even if she has done it. 1 inch besides. Why would I trust an outsider like you and not my granddaughter? Feng Lianyi, do you really think you can become a member of General Manor? Feng Lianyi's body stiffened. Her face had long since lost its color, and her pale lips were trembling. In this life, she had always thought that General Tianya was fair and rational. He would not blindly protect someone unless that person was really innocent. Only now did she understand that Tianya was actually quite protective, but the person he was protecting was not her. Even Feng Lianqing was a little surprised, as if he was getting to know Tianya for the first time. But then he suddenly realized something. Yes, everyone has passions and desires, and so does Master. Maiden Feng is his granddaughter, so no matter what happens, he would protect her first, regardless of whether she was right or wrong. Such a person was like someone who indeed had blood ties with him. Feng Lianqing smiled faintly as his gaze fell on Tianya. Feng Lianyi. Lianyi lifted her head and walked toward Feng Lianyi arrogantly. You were so arrogant just now. What has happened? Are you afraid to speak now? It was not that Feng Lianyi did not dare to speak. She was in so much pain that she could not even say anything. However, you really have good endurance. Your hand has been cut off, but you haven't faint from the pain. TSK. Only people with thick skin can do that. I admire you. Feng Lianyi bit her lips hard. She wished she could faint to block out all these pains. However, her mind was very clear, and she could not seem to faint at all. Yuer, move aside. Tianya's face was expressionless. All right, me for extra chapters. Lianyi obediently moved to the side with a bright and proud smile on her small face. Her face. She looked exactly like Tang Yin. Fu Chun looked at Lianyi. There was a slight resemblance between Lianyi's and Tang Yin's eyes. No wonder Mother treats her nicely. Tianya lifted his hand. The longsword flashed again in front of him, floating in the air. The blade was as cold as the old man's pale face. Seeing that Tianya was about to slash at Feng Lianyi again, Fu Chun became anxious and hurriedly shouted, Wait, you can't kill her. Tianya paused and looked back at Fu Chun. Why? Actually, Fu Chun bit his lips. There's still some things that Mother has to ask her personally. You can kill her later. Feng Lianyi slowly closed her eyes. So, Tianya was trying to kill her just now. Such an intense, murderous intent, but she did not feel it. She had spent so many years in General Manor. Did he not have any pity or feelings for her at all? He wanted to kill a girl he had raised for over 20 years for the granddaughter he had never met. The banquet hall fell silent. Everyone was quiet. Even the chatty little prince did not say anything for a long moment. His fat face taut with fury. Pretty sister is actually Tianya's granddaughter. He would never forget that Tianya had severely beaten him up before. That was why he held a grudge against Feng Lianyi. However, if Tianya was his Feng Rooking's grandfather, he had no choice but to forgive Tianya. When the others were also silenced, especially those who had just bragged about Feng Lianyi. They were shivering in fear and wishing that they were somewhere else. None of them had ever thought that things would turn out like this. The funny thing was Feng Lianyi had even dared to claim that Tianya had given her the jade necklace. So, I really can't kill her? Tianya's pale face went blank after hearing Fu Chen's words. He hesitated for a moment and turned to look at Fu Chen. Mother said there are some things that only she can answer. Suddenly, Feng Lianyi laughed sarcastically. Feng Ruching is treating me so badly. What makes you think I'll answer her questions? He'll never tell her whatever she wants to know. Feng Lianya's eyes were filled with hatred. Up until now, Feng Lianyi was still blaming Feng Ruqing for everything that had happened, not thinking in the slightest that if she had had no intention to hurt Feng Ruqing in the first place, she would not have ended up where she was today. It was she who had asked for it. No one else was to be blamed. Well, since he refused to answer her questions, I'd better just kill you now. Tianya waved his hand expressionlessly, sending Feng Lianyi flying out. Since she was already losing too much blood, she almost fainted from this. Me for extra chapters. Fortunately, Fu Chun had re-released his spiritual qi in time to keep her awake. Feng Lianyi bit her lip hard and did not say a word. There was no way she would do what Feng Ruqing wished. She would not let Feng Ruqing get what she wanted even if she had to die from it. Feng Lianyi did not know what Feng Ruqing wanted from her, but no matter what it was, she would not say anything. General, Lu Yi could not stand to see the pain on Feng Lianya's face. Maiden Lianyi has made a big mistake this time, and the mistake she has committed is unforgivable, but I beg you, General, please spare her life. Please, General. He violently hit his head on the ground, begging so hard that he did not care if his forehead was hurt and bleeding. Feng Lianyi was stunned. She did not expect that at such a time, Lu Yi would still plead for her. Perhaps Lu Yi was the only person in General Manor who treated her sincerely. When everyone else, including Feng Lianxing, had said they would plead for her, but after they knew about Feng Ruqing's identity, all of them did not dare to say anything. Ridiculous. If it were not for the pain in her broken arm, Feng Lianyi would have laughed out loud. Even until now, she still would not admit her faults. Well, they'll keep Feng Lianya's life, because she must wait for my granddaughter to wake up to kowtow to her and admit her mistakes. Tian Ya's red robes lifted in the wind as he said domineeringly, if she doesn't wake up, Feng Lianyi will have to pay for it. Of course, whether Feng Ruqing could wake up or not, Feng Lianyi would still die in Tian Ya's hand in the end. He would not kill her now until his granddaughter woke up. Tianya glanced at Lu Yi, who was still kowtowing in front of him. He did not stop him and simply said coldly, your kowtowing shouldn't be to plead for Feng Lianyi, but you should reserve it until my precious granddaughter has woken up. Lu Yi's body stiffened. He raised his head, and his face was covered in blood. His eyes were filled with grievance. General, Maiden Lianyi, shut up. Tianya kicked him down violently and stepped on his chest expressionlessly. You still have the heart to plead for others. Do you think I will forgive you for your crimes? Lu Yi trembled as he slowly closed his eyes. The cold moonlight poured in from the door, illuminating his pale face. The banquet hall was silent. After a moment of silence, Lu Yi opened his eyes and said, General, I violated the military rules, released the soul without permission, and mistakenly injured the young lady. I deserve to die, but am begging General to spare Maiden Lianya's life. You can beat her or drive her out of the manor, but please, spare her life. Feng Lianyi had lost her arm. Even if she was really at fault for this, she had paid the price. It should be enough. My granddaughter is still unconscious. Why should I let the person who hurt her go? His granddaughter, who should be the noblest person in General Manor and beloved by thousands of people. But she had been harmed to such an extent by a servant girl. It was all because of him. He should not have been so kind to bring Feng Lianyi into General Manor. General, if what Maiden Lianyi says is true, what if Feng Ruqing know? Before he could finish his sentence, Lu Yi felt something strangling him, making it difficult to breathe. The pressure in his chest began to increase, and it seemed like his heart might stop beating at any time. I don't think my granddaughter is at fault. Besides, I trust my granddaughter. Me for extra chapters. Even a wild wolf knew how to protect its pups, more so him. No one had the right to criticize his granddaughter. He did not think that Feng Ruqing would frame Feng Lianyi. How would he be fit to be her grandfather if he did not even trust her? Lu Yi, you better pray that Shaoqing will be safe and sound. Otherwise, they'll make you suffer for the rest of your life. Lu Yi recoiled in horror, spitting a mouthful of blood. The pressure just now had broken his bones, and he could not even straighten his back. His eyes were filled with horror inside the manor. The moonlight was clear and cold. Feng Ruqing, dressed in red, was lying quietly on the bed. She was frowning, perhaps due to pain. Qing Zhu was dumbfounded as it looked at the bed, turning stiffly to the man next to it. "Master, what happened to Princess?" "This couple has left me in the manor and gone out to watch a good show, but returned with Princess unconscious?" Nanxian ignored Qing Zhu. He brushed Feng Ruqing's hair and stroked her pale face as grief and anger filled his eyes. He felt sad because of Feng Ruqing. At the same time, he was pissed at everyone in general manner. Slowly, the man lowered his head and kissed her lips. He kissed her softly and warmly. "Qing'er, I won't let anything happen to you. No one can hurt you." No one. At this moment, Feng Ruqing was in the middle of the sea. It was her spiritual sea. Not far away from her stood a handsome man staring coldly at Feng Ruqing. "Feng Ruqing, you better not fight with me for your body. I can still give you a place in this body. But if you try to fight me, maybe you'll just let your soul float away." Feng Ruqing smirked. "I'd like to know how you're going to make my soul float away." The man's face sank as he raised his hand, setting off a storm that made violent waves in the sea that rushed toward Feng Ruqing. Feng Ruqing looked at the man calmly. The waves whipped up by the storm on the sea's surface suddenly disappeared as it reached Feng Ruqing. The man's eyes were cold as he sneered and said, "Ninth Emperor, there's no way you can stop me." "Oh," Feng Ruqing responded nonchalantly. "Why do you hate me so much? Just because I didn't take you as a disciple back then?" The man snorted. "Have you really forgotten all about it?" "Sorry. Probably I drank too much Mangpa soup before reincarnation." The man was momentarily stunned. His smile grew even more sardonic. "Back then, when you said you would only accept female disciples, I didn't give up and had gone to you dressed as a woman. But what did you do? You said I was ugly and didn't want to take me in." The man was filled with anger. "Look at my face. Am I ugly? Everyone in the world thinks I'm stunning, and I won't let anyone tell me otherwise. You've become my enemy, and I'll make sure you admit to me that you were wrong for saying I'm ugly. Me for extra chapters. And not only did you refuse to deny that I'm ugly, but you beat me up every time I went to see you. Your women were even worse, exposing me as a woman in disguise. I was so embarrassed that I had become the biggest joke in the world." The more the man spoke, the more agitated he became. His appearance was his biggest pride, and whoever insulted his looks was his sworn enemy. Feng Ruqing was slightly stunned. She stared at the man for a few seconds and said, "Well, you're indeed quite ugly." She had a handsome and stunning husband, and all the other men in this world were ugly in her eyes. Except for Jiuming and Chainer. They were the only men that she admitted were handsome and stunning. The man in front of her was indeed ugly compared to them. Unbearably ugly. "Ninth Emperor, I'm going to kill you." The man went crazy, screaming and lunging at Feng Ruqing. Initially, he had wanted her to give her some space to survive in this body, but now he only had one thought. He was going to kill this damn woman. But just as the man was about to rush toward Feng Ruqing, a black sword suddenly fell from the sky, violently sending waves of horror toward the man, pushing him back a few steps. The man was shocked. "What is this thing? You seem to have forgotten that this is my body." Feng Ruqing smiled faintly and walked toward the man. "I'm invincible here." The man looked at the black long sword with a pale and somewhat fearful expression. Feng Ruqing held the long sword in her hand. She smiled and walked toward the man. "I have kept this sword in my dantian for quite some time, and it has never been stained with blood." "Oh, I forgot. You don't have blood." The man's eyes were wary. "Are you threatening me with this sword?" He somehow felt an unprecedented threat when faced with this sword. This sense of danger caused his body to tremble, not daring to make drastic moves. Feng Ruqing smiled. "Unfortunately, my sword is missing a sword soul. You came just in time." The man stared at Feng Ruqing with widened eyes. He only tried to possess her body, but this woman wanted to make him a sword soul and trap him in this sword for the rest of his life. How could she be so vicious? Feng Ruqing could feel that her sword was excited. She released her hand, and suddenly the sword was like a black light, swiftly moving forward. The man could not retreat any further as there was a vast ocean behind him. He gritted his teeth tightly and finally summoned the courage to face the black sword. Suddenly, the black sword flashed in front of him with countless sword rays, causing him to tremble. His face turned pale. The sword rays sliced through his soul, making him cry out in agony. That pain was unbearable. No matter how strong his soul was, it could never endure it. Ninth Emperor, you vicious woman, you have insulted my looks, forcing me to abandon my body and hide in the talisman. And now, you want to make me a sword soul? I'll never let you go as long as I have the chance. Feng Ruqing smiled faintly. Unfortunately, you don't have the chance anymore. The black sword had been lacking a soul, so it hid in her dantian and refused to leave, making it hard for her to find a soul for this sword. This guy just happened to come at the right time. Me for extra chapters. Ninth Emperor, are you even still a Woma? You're obviously a woman, but why are you only recruiting female disciples? And you're blind. I'm so handsome, but you say I'm ugly. I wouldn't have gone against you if you hadn't insulted me in the first place. This vicious woman has no idea how important looks are to a good-looking person. You can insult my manners all you want, but not my face. The black sword did not stop moving, forcing him backward. The man was on the verge of tears. Ninth Emperor, what do you want? I'm the one who should ask that question. Feng Ruqing smiled. You said you wanted to possess my body, and now it'll do the same thing to you. The man snapped. You're the one who insulted me first, saying I'm ugly. Sorry, I don't remember that. How could she remember what happened 1,000 years ago? Now, all she knew was that this bastard was going to steal her body. What if this asshole used her body to hit on men to seek revenge? No, never. She would not let anyone do anything to hurt the state preceptor. Besides, this guy was dangerous. He looked like he was about to cry now, but no one knew what was on his mind. She had better turn him into a sword soul. The man suffered a lot of injuries from the sword's attack. He could not escape or leave Feng Ruqing's body, and could only watch the black sword tirelessly attack him. Perhaps he was tired and wanted to slack off, but as soon as he did, the black sword suddenly turned into a tiny sword that instantly pierced into the man's forehead. This time, the man did not feel any pain. He only felt that his brain was about to explode, and his whole body froze. He had been possessed by a sword. Ninth Emperor, I'm going to kill you. Oh. The man frantically rushed toward Feng Ruqing. His eyes were bloodshot. Unfortunately, a stabbing pain came from his forehead before he could reach Feng Ruqing. This stabbing pain instantly spread throughout his body, causing him to stop in his tracks. Feng Ruqing smiled. Haven't you always wanted to find a body to live in? My sword is perfect for you. The black sword buzzed as if responding to Feng Ruqing. The man wanted to cry. It had always been like this since 1,000 years ago. Every time he encountered the Ninth Emperor, nothing good would come from it. Every time he fought against her, the one who lost was always him. The man squatted down in pain and covered his face with his hands. I'm already so miserable. Why won't you just let me go? Feng Ruqing glanced at the man. Who's the one who won't let go? The man was speechless, as if indirectly admitting his fault. Thousands of years ago, it had always been him who had messed with the Ninth Emperor, but every time, the one who lost was him. The last time he did go a little too far. He molested the Ninth Emperor's servant and almost slept with her. The Ninth Emperor was so angry and hunted him all over the mainland. But, he was already so miserable, was that not enough? He had wanted to ask the question, but never did. Me for extra chapters. It was because he could already guess the answer. After all, the Ninth Emperor was indeed very selective. The female disciples around her were all stunningly beautiful. Even her servants were so pretty. However, that was not a reason for her to humiliate him. At least he was no worse than those women when he dressed up as a woman. Actually, I can be your sword soul, and he'll even help you fight, but you're not allowed to insult my looks again. You have to praise me by saying that I am handsome. Feng Ruching glanced at him. Do you think you have a right to bargain with me? Is it so hard to just give me a compliment? Well, I will only praise my state preceptor for his good looks. No one is as good-looking as him. The state preceptor was the most stunning man in her life. No one could replace him. The man simply kept his mouth shut, not bothering to speak to her for fear that she would be angry. By the way, you still haven't told me your name. Feng Ruching paused and continued. Forget it. I'm not interested in knowing your name. You are a sword soul now, and he'll call you Little Soul, and the black sword will be named Little Sword. After hearing the name Feng Ruching had given to him, the man was sad, but her last sentence made him feel relieved. Oh, fortunately, she didn't call me Little Sword. You'll stay here from now on. It's time for me to wake up. Otherwise, my state preceptor will be worried. Little Soul became a little anxious after he heard that Feng Ruching was leaving. You can't leave. What should I do here? You can't leave me in this place forever. He had come to take her body, but he had turned into a sword soul instead. Feng Ruching did not answer his questions. Little Soul's anxious voice echoed in the sea as he followed Feng Ruching from behind. Suddenly, he froze as he saw a handsome man appear in front of him. The man was dressed in white, with long white hair and a silver line between his eyebrows. He was like an immortal with a demonic charm. Even the sea breeze had suddenly disappeared after he had appeared in front of her. His eyes were clear, but with endless sadness, and his gaze was fixed upon Feng Ruching, idiotically, with an endless sentiment, just like a foolish man. Feng Ruching was startled. State Preceptor? No, nope. This guy looked exactly like State Preceptor. But my state preceptor looks like an immortal, while he, on the other hand, looks like an immortal and demon at the same time. Like a poppy, he was breathtakingly beautiful and dangerous. Nan Changfeng, Little Soul, gritted his teeth. This little sidekick is such a bastard. He always joins the Ninth Emperor in bullying me. Such an annoying couple. Feng Ruching stared at the man in front of her. Me for extra chapters. The grief in his eyes was like a sword, piercing into her heart. I've seen you before when I was in danger, trying to save my mother. You were also the one who had appeared and stopped the violent force in my body for me. Feng Ruching walked toward the man. Are you my state preceptor? The man did not say anything. He continued looking at her, as if he were an idiot. Feng Ruching gently caressed the man's brow, wanting to brush away his grief, but the moment her fingers touched the man, boom! Her head felt like it was about to explode. Your name is Nan Changfeng? That's a lovely name. And since you're now homeless, will you come home with me? Changfeng, I'm here. Of course I'll take you with me. No matter what happens later, don't let go of my hand. I have to take you back. In this life, my only regret is that I didn't sleep with you. Changfeng, if we can't get out this time, I promise he'll marry you in the next life. No one can harm him. If anyone dares to touch him, I will make the city pay with blood, and I will bring chaos to the world. Nan Changfeng, I haven't slept with you yet. Who has allowed you to die? If you die, they'll kill their whole family for you. They'll go back in time to find you. They'll abandon the world for you. Nan Changfeng, you've always said you want to be better than me, so they'll give you one more chance. In the next life, you must be stronger than me and come back to me. If you keep me waiting too long, I don't want to sleep with you anymore, Nan Changfeng. How can you leave me alone in this world? There are many beauties in the world, but no one is as good as you. Those words, they were flooding into her mind. It felt like she had gone through hell. They came from far away and rang in her mind for a long time. Feng Ruching withdrew her hand and pressed her head hard, trying to recall all the things that she had forgotten. However, the man in front of her, who was looking at her affectionately, gradually disappeared as if he had never existed. At the same time, Nan Xian opened his eyes slowly. His face glowed under the cold moonlight. Master, how is Princess? Qing Zhu asked anxiously. My Xiao Qing is strong, and no one can hurt her. Oh. Qing Zhu was relieved and asked again. Where's the soul that wants to take over Prince's body? Is the soul gone? Fortunately, Princess is stronger than him. Otherwise, that man might take over Prince's body and seduce girls. After all, Princess is so charming to girls. Nancian glanced at Qing Zhu coldly. I only know that Qing'er is fine, but I don't know what exactly happened there. Not everything that my main soul has seen is known to me, but he paused. There's one thing I'm sure of. You're going to be a snake soup. Qing Zhu was speechless. I'm just concerned about Princess. Why is Master so cruel to me? Nancian ignored Qing Zhu as Feng Ruqing had already woken up. She rubbed her temples, trying to ease the headache. She then slowly opened her eyes and saw a man as handsome as an immortal. State Preceptor. Feng Ruqing suddenly got up and hugged Nancian tightly. Her arms were very strong. She was just afraid that she would lose him. Her embrace somewhat suffocated Nancian a little, and he felt like his bones were about to break. However, seeing Feng Ruqing like this, he did not stop her and gently patted her back. What's wrong? I don't quite remember exactly. Feng Ruqing lifted her face. I just remember that I think I saw someone who looked a lot like you, and then someone kept shouting a name in my head. A name? Me for extra chapters. Nan Changfeng. This name was stuck in her head. Her head ached every time she heard it. Nancian's fingers trembled slightly, and without moving a muscle, he pulled the woman into his arms, lowered his head, and rubbed his chin against her head. Qing'er, no matter what happens, I will always be there for you. State Preceptor, Feng Ruqing smiled. Those people have been calling you Nan Changfeng before. Nancian lowered his eyes and remained silent. Fu Chun and the others all said that I was the ninth emperor. He also once told me that the ninth emperor had a lover. She had left to save her lover, and since then, she never came back. Qing'er, that's why, when I first saw you, my first thought was that I wanted to sleep with you. Perhaps it was because the ninth emperor didn't get to sleep with Nan Changfeng back then, and in this life, I have inherited her long-cherished dream. She did not know what kind of story the ninth emperor and Nan Changfeng really had, but Nan Changfeng's sad eyes have been lingering in her mind for a long time. His love was so deep that he still could not let her go even after death. People said the one who was alive would suffer the most. However, that was wrong, the dead one. He was still grieving as he thought of his beloved being left in the world. Nancian lowered his head and kissed the girl's forehead. You are Qing'er, and I am Nancian. That's all it is. No matter how touching the story of the ninth emperor and Nan Changfeng was, it was only the past. All he wanted to have was just his Qing'er, and Feng Ruqing held her chin and smiled. The ninth emperor was so powerful back then, but she failed to sleep with Nan Changfeng. But now I can sleep with State Preceptor, so I am Feng Ruqing, not the ninth emperor. She did not want to be known as the ninth emperor, even if that person was her past. The past was only the past. All she wanted to do was cherish the present. You've just recovered, so you need to rest first. Don't worry about general manner. Feng Lianyi can't escape. He stroked her hair gently. They'll find a mute girl for you. All right. Feng Ruqing did feel tired. She lay in a man's arms and quickly fell asleep. The next day, she opened her eyes and yawned languidly. When she turned her head sideways, she found that Nancian had already woken up and was not by her side. Only a pair of sad eyes were watching her from beside her. Qing Han. Feng Ruqing was slightly stunned and asked, confused, "What are you doing here?" Qing Han's mouth fell open, and she almost cried. "Mother, ever since you reached King Warrior tier, I feel like I can't control the medium anymore." "What?" "In the past, I couldn't go out only when you locked me there, but now, even when you didn't lock me up, I still can't leave." Feng Ruqing was stunned. Seriously? Usually, Qing Han would be by her side whenever she had any trouble. However, she did not see Qing Han yesterday, and she thought Qing Han was sleeping in the medium. "So, how did you get here now?" "I can only appear after Mother is asleep." "Oh." Feng Ruqing was still a bit confused. "Why don't you go back to the medium, and we'll try to see if you can come out on your own." As soon as Qing Han heard this, she hurriedly took a few steps back, panicked. "I'm not going there. I don't want to go to the medium again. Me for extra chapters." Brother Fu-chun is so useless. He couldn't even protect Mother. If she had been able to appear yesterday, she would not have allowed anyone to take advantage of her mother. She was so strong. Seeing little Ching Han in this state, Feng Ruching was a little distressed and quickly pulled Ching Han into her arms. All right. You don't have to go there again. Ching Han heaved a sigh of relief after hearing that. However, her small pinkish face was filled with grievances, and her eyes were filled with sorrow. Mother, let me come out to help you in the future, and let Brother Fu-chun stay in the medium, please? All right, he'll listen to you. Feng Ruching smiled and pinched little Ching Han's cheek gently. Little Ching Han smiled brightly and put her small head on Feng Ruching's belly. Mother, I heard my sister speak. Really? What did she say? It's not very clear. Ching Han leaned his head a little closer. I heard my sister cursing. Cursing? Yeah, Ching Han nodded. My sister is cursing father. Feng Ruching was speechless. Did the state preceptor do something to her when she was unprepared? Did he accidentally startle this little brat when he slept with her? Feng Ruching held her head and rubbed her temples. Mother, Ching Han lifted her cute small head. Sister doesn't seem to like father. She keeps cursing him. Did father do something wrong to her? Feng Ruching looked a little embarrassed. Well, it might be what happened a few days ago. We tried to make a baby. Ching Han's eyes went blank. Try to make a baby? Don't you already have a little sister? Why did you still want to make a baby? We might have accidentally disturbed her sleep. It's all right. She won't remember anything after she's born, much less this incident. Feng Ruching would never have thought that the little brat was cursing because Nansien had stopped her from absorbing the spiritual qi. The mainland had lost one talented man. Of course, Feng Ruching was even more unaware that this little brat was so evil and was holding a grudge. Ching Han, let's go. Let's freshen up and go to General Manor. There are some things that we need to settle with them. General Manor. Tianya could not sleep after Feng Ruching was taken away by a Nansien yesterday. His eyes reddened. No one in the banquet hall dared to leave. They simply stood timidly on the side. It was not Tianya who did not let them leave, but the countless spirit beasts were surrounding the banquet hall, making it impossible for them to leave. Feng Liani had almost bled dry, and in one night, she had become so thin and weak that her appearance was quite heartbreaking. Louis kowtowed for a whole night. His head was still on the ground. It was not because he did not want to lift up, but Tianya's rage was so overwhelming that there was no way for him to lift his head. Hey, kid, Tianya turned around and asked again, is my precious granddaughter going to be okay? Is that guy going to save her? Mother is strong. Fu-chun lifted his chin proudly. A mere soul can't hurt her. But no matter how powerful she was his granddaughter. How could he not worry? Tianya's bloodshot eyes turned to look at Lu Yi. Lu Yi, it'll spare your life if my granddaughter can wake up. But if she never wakes up, it'll crush your bones. It'll kill you. Me for extra chapters. Tianya did remember Lu Yi's deeds. Louis followed him for so many years. He would punish him according to military regulations if he made a small mistake. But now Lu Yi had hurt his granddaughter. No one could smile, forgive, and forget after a loved had been hurt and almost died. No matter how important a subordinate was, it was nowhere near as important as a loved one. Lu Yi bit his lip hard. After kowtowing the whole night, his pain was not in the knee but in the neck that was about to break, but facing General's fury, he did not even dare to breathe loudly, let alone beg for mercy. Feng Liani was much calmer. She sneered as she thought that Feng Ruching couldn't wake up and live in her body again. Nope, she won't die, but her body will never be hers again. Ha ha ha. Thinking of how miserable Feng Ruching's life right now. Feng Liani wanted to laugh out loud. If she could not escape this calamity, she would drag Feng Ruching and let Feng Ruching suffer the same pain as her. As for Tianya, she had followed him for so many years and had been with him on a few battles. In the end, he still treated her like this. Feng Liani laughed sarcastically. Perhaps today's ending was something she had not expected anyway. Feng Lieni, you still don't know your mistake by now? Tian Ya's gaze toward Feng Lieni became more and more disappointed. He took Feng Lieni back then and kept her with him only because he felt pity for her. But after this girl had grown up, she started to reveal her selfish and mean nature. He had taught her a lesson and scolded her. She was so well-behaved in front of him, but behind his back, she was so vicious. Grandfather Tianya, Hellion, you stood up from her chair and sneered. She never learned from her mistakes. Never. The same goes for Feng Lianqing. Feng Lianqing's legs trembled in fear, looking up at Hellion Yu. Hellion Yu clenched her fists tightly, and her eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Yes, she hated Feng Lianqing this time. If Feng Lianqing had listened to her early on and kicked Feng Lieni out, there would not have been what happened today, and Xiaoqing's life would not be in danger. She could not do anything but wait for her here. Tianya withdrew her gaze and turned to Feng Lianqing, scaring Feng Lianqing so much that he could barely stand. Master, listen to my explanation. I'm innocent. Grandfather Tianya, Feng Lianqing is also responsible for what has happened to Xiaoqing. Hellion Yu's small face was filled with anger. I was so foolish back then, so fond of Feng Lianqing. Feng Lieni had deliberately sent someone to frame Xiaoqing in front of me, saying that Xiaoqing was seducing Feng Lianqing. My Xiaoqing is such an excellent woman. Why would she have fallen in love with Brother Lianqing? If I hadn't already known Xiaoqing, I would have hurt her as Feng Lieni wished. Xiaoqing is so beautiful, and she is such a good-looking and excellent husband. She doesn't want Feng Lianqing. It's only me being crazy about him for years. In the end, he chose Feng Lieni, me, for extra chapters. But Feng Lianqing didn't even listen to me. He said Feng Lieni was innocent. If we had kicked Feng Lieni out back then, Xiaoqing would have been fine at all. Hellion Yu turned her head to look at Feng Lianqing. She walked toward the man angrily. Her voice was no longer as shy as before. Instead, it carried rage. If it weren't for you, Feng Lieni would not have the chance to hurt Xiaoqing. It's all your fault. I hate you. Feng Lianqing was slightly startled. He raised his eyes and met the young girl's eyes that were filled with anger. The young girl's gaze was like a needle that pierced his heart. He had no intention of being in a relationship all these years and had always wanted to keep Hellion Yu away from him. But now he felt so uncomfortable. Perhaps he just wanted Hellion Yu to stop chasing after him. But he did not want her to hate him. The corners of Feng Lianqing's mouth twitched. He wanted to say something, but all the words seemed to be stuck in his throat, unwilling to come out. Feng Lieni sneered. She covered her broken arm and stood up from the ground with sarcasm in her eyes. Hellion Yu, don't you understand yet? Feng Lianqing never cared about you. Since just now, Feng Lianqing had not said a single word on her behalf. If Feng Lianqing had been willing to plead for her, perhaps Tianya would not have broken her arm. Just because he had done nothing, it made Feng Lianya's heart fill with hatred. She was suffering, and she wanted Feng Lianqing to suffer too. He owed it all to her. You shut up. Feng Lianqing was furious and looked sideways at Feng Lieni. Feng Lieni sneered. Hellion Yu, Feng Lianqing will always trust me, not you. If it weren't for the fact that Feng Ruqing is General's granddaughter, who do you think he would be on the side of now? Do you think he would care about you? Funny, you've always been so bad for him. He said from the start that he would rather believe one word of my argument than 100 of yours. Feng Lieni. Feng Lianqing clenched his fists tightly. If you speak nonsense again, don't blame me for being rude. I'm already in this state. What more do I have to be afraid of? Hellion Yu, you can ask these people, who in this world would like someone like you? You think Feng Ruqing is the best in the whole world just because she's been nice to you? This shows how much you lack affection. Snap. Feng Lianqing raised his hand and slapped Feng Lieni. Feng Lianya's broken arm was already hurting beyond everything, so she could no longer feel the pain on her face. Her hair fell in disarray. 5 fingerprints were left on her pale cheek, which soon turned red. A low laugh, accompanied by that mocking voice, echoed through the hall. Am I right? Feng Ruching treated her nicely because she felt pity for her, and Helian Yu was so after her. A girl without a father and loved by no one. Everyone hates you, Helian Yu. The banquet hall was silent. In fact, what Feng Lianyi said was true. No one in Wushang City liked Helian Yu. She was too overbearing, and she often fought with other people. There were countless young masters and young ladies in the city who had been beaten up by her. But no one dared to touch her, because Helian Yu's grandfather was the old master of the Helian family. Helian Yu's eyes were red as she bit her lip hard. Those people had feuded with her a long time ago. They looked down on her for being an orphan. She had her grandfather backing her up, so why did she have to be afraid of them? She could not stand when those people talked bad about her and tried to snatch Feng Lianqing from her. That was why she beat them up. Me for extra chapters. So what if she was arrogant? Because of her arrogance, no one in Wushang City had dared to call her fatherless or motherless again. One cannot just stand still when being bullied by others. That was why she beat them up until they were too scared to bully her again. Helian Yu, Feng Ruching is only pretending to like you. No one in this world will truly treat you as a friend. Boom. Suddenly, a powerful force came from the doorway and landed violently on Feng Lianyu's body, sending her flying out like an arrow from string. Her body was already so weak. After crushing against the wall again, she spat another mouthful of blood, unable to say a word anymore. The crowd turned to look at the entrance of the banquet hall. The morning light was so bright. A red dress stepped in through the door overbearingly. The woman was so beautiful. Her big belly did not affect her beauty, but made her look even more stunning. She had an overbearing aura that was a little suffocating. Not to mention the men present. Even the girls could not help but be amazed by her beauty. What do you mean in pretending to like her? Her gaze passed through the crowd and landed on Feng Lianyi, who was covered in blood. Feng Lianyi raised her head and looked at the women dressed in red in horror. She trembled as she bit her lip hard. Impossible. There's no way Feng Ruching is still alive. This person is not Feng Ruching. It must be that soul that has possessed her body. Helian, you seem to be worried about this too, and stood a short distance away, looking at Feng Ruching timidly. She was a little afraid to step forward. Her eyes were full of worry. Xiao Qing. Is she Xiao Qing? Or maybe it is another person, until the man in a snow-colored robe followed, shielding her from the dazzling morning light with his hand. He pulled her into his arms and smiled gently. Qinger, why are you walking so fast? It was only at this point that Helian Yu heaved a sigh of relief. She knew Nancian. He would not be close to that woman if she were not Feng Ruching. Feng Lianyi trembled. Her heart felt like it was tightly squeezed by a hand, and it felt somewhat difficult to breathe. Why is she still alive? Why has God been so kind to her? Tianya looked at the woman walking in through the door, tears suddenly falling from his eyes. Thank God, she's safe and sound. Otherwise, he would never be able to forgive himself in his life. Lu Yi was also visibly relieved the moment he saw Feng Ruching. Fortunately, nothing happened to her, so, well, General, forgive me? Feng Ruching sneered as she walked toward Feng Lianyi. TSK, who did this to Feng Lianyi? Even your arm is broken. The crowd somehow felt that Feng Ruching was enjoying this scene. It's so cruel. We should be gentle. Gentle me for extra chapters. The little fatty, who heard this, was a bit stunned, and he suddenly recalled the day he first met Feng Ruching. She also said to be gentle with him, but in the end, she just hung him up and smacked him hard. This woman could never be gentle. Lu Yi's eyes lit up and hurriedly crawled in front of Feng Ruching. Young lady, Maiden Lianyi doesn't know anything before she offended young lady. Please let her go. Feng Ruching glanced at Lu Yi coldly. You're quite annoying, but I have a friend who wants to meet you. What? Lu Yi was stunned. A friend? Who is it? Little soul. Feng Ruching called faintly. As soon as her voice fell, a soul suddenly appeared in front of her. Feng Ruching just realized that little soul did not have to stay in the Black Sword. He could appear at any time, but because of the Black Sword, his strength was limited, and Feng Ruching still could not take the Black Sword out of her dantian. Lu Yi, The man's eyes reddened as soon as he saw Lu Yi. It could be said to be a meeting for enemies. The atmosphere was filled with anger. "I will kill you. I will kill you." He roared and lunged at Lu Yi. If it was not for this bastard Lu Yi, he would not have met the 9th Emperor again, and he would not have to become a sword spirit. Lu Yi was dumbfounded, staring dumbly at the man rushing toward him. Before he had time to react, a sword light had already pierced his chest. He looked down and saw that there was a large hole on his chest as blood spilled from it. Soon, his body fell backward with a thud into a pool of blood. The others were also dumbfounded. No one had thought that this soul that had been screaming to kill Feng Ruching last night had been subdued by her in the blink of an eye. Of course, the others were shocked, but for Feng Lianyi, it was a bit too much for her to bear. Her eyes stared wildly at Feng Ruching, and her voice was hysterical. "Why does God always favor you so much? You have such a perfect husband and even a general's granddaughter. Why should you even own this soul? Why is God so unfair?" One Feng Ruching lowered her eyes and smiled. "No, it's because God is fair that he makes you like this." "Feng, are you? Qing, I've told you, don't shout my name like a crazy woman. I don't like women." Feng Lianyi was so angry that she almost fainted. Her face sunk, and her eyes were filled with hatred as she stared at Feng Ruching. "Qing, Qing." An old voice came from behind Feng Ruching. Feng Ruching turned her head. She stared at the old man for a moment and suddenly said, "Oh, aren't you the old master who exchanged the jade for my wine to drink?" This time, Feng Ruching no longer called him an old man as she did before. Tianya was a little anxious. "What old master?" "I'm your grandfather. Didn't that bastard Feng Tianyu tell you about me? He'll kill him later." Actually, from the moment Feng Lianyi took out the jade stone, Feng Ruching had already guessed some things in her heart. There is no such thing as a coincidence in the world, and that jade necklace is proof that the old man is Tianya. Now all her guesses were right after hearing Tianya's words. "He has mentioned you." Tianya smiled. "Is that brat complaining about me all day long? Did he think I left Lu Yun Kingdom to him and go travel on my own?" "No." Feng Ruching shook her head. "He doesn't have time to complain about you. Me for extra chapters? No time?" Tianya was shocked. "Is he busy with the kingdom's affairs?" "Impossible. Father's been busy looking for mother all these years, and he has never had a good day. He almost lost his life." Tianya frowned. "What happened?" "He'll tell you after we've settled things here." Feng Ruching turned to Feng Lianyi, smilingly. "Feng Lianyi, you don't have to worry. We're all civilized people. We don't fight and kill every day." Somehow, after hearing these words, the little fatty could not help but tremble. He subconsciously hid behind the Empress. Pretty sister is more frightening and fierce when she talks about being civilized. "What are you going to do?" Feng Lianyi gritted her teeth to endure the pain. Feng Ruching squatted down and smiled. "I'm a woman. What can I do to you? I've always been reasonable, so boom." Feng Ruching lifted her foot and kicked Feng Lianyi, crushing her against the wall. The entire wall caved in, proving just how powerful her kick was. Feng Lianyi coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her face was twisted in agony. She was already severely injured, and no longer even had the strength to speak. However, Feng Ruching did not stop. In a flash, she was already in front of Feng Lianyi, picking her up from the ground and bringing her knee to Feng Lianyi's abdomen. Poof! Feng Lianyi spurted out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground helplessly. Of course, all of this was just the beginning. Countless vines suddenly appeared on the ground, hanging Feng Lianyi in the air, and those vines were like whips, violently snapping at her body. Feng Lianyi, who clearly had no strength left, stared at Feng Ruching fiercely, as if she was using all her strength to show her rage. "Feng Ruching, you will get your retribution sooner or later." She did not understand why Feng Ruching tortured her to such an extent. "Feng Lianyi." Feng Ruching stared at Feng Lianyi and smiled. "They'll ask you a question, and if you answer me truthfully, they'll let you go." Feng Lianyi gritted her teeth as her eyes were filled with resentment and bitterness. Feng Ruching continued. I heard Feng Lianqing mention that you are an orphan. Oh, Feng Lianyi laughed. Orphan or not, this matter has nothing to do with you. Feng Ruching, I wouldn't let you go even if I were a ghost. Feng Ruching shrugged and sighed lightly. As expected, Feng Lianyi hated her so much, and she would rather suffer such torture than answer her correctly. Since that was the case, then there was nothing she could do about it. Swish! Countless long swords appeared in the air, floating in front of Feng Ruching. All of these long swords were filled with a faint coldness that was so frightening. Since you don't want to answer my question, then I can only dash boom. Me for extra chapters. Before Feng Ruching could finish her words, a powerful force suddenly exploded behind her and headed toward her. Ching! Tian Ya's face changed dramatically. He just wanted to go to Feng Ruching's side, who knew that there was a man who was one step faster than him who had pulled Feng Ruching to his side. The force was like a long sword, cutting off all the vines behind Feng Ruching, causing Feng Lianyi to fall from midair. A woman in a long blue dress leaped in swiftly and dragged Feng Lianyi to her side. The woman veiled her face, but Tianya somehow felt that this woman's fragrance seemed familiar, as if he had smelled it somewhere before but could not recall it. Amid his hesitation, the woman in blue dress had already rushed outside of the banquet hall with Feng Lianyi. Her palms were so strong and fierce that she had pushed the guards blocking the doorway in just an instant, and in the blink of an eye, they had lost track of her. Tianya was stunned. A few moments later, fury surged to his face. Someone has dared to come to General Manor to save the culprit. He ruffled his long sleeves and was about to chase after them. However, before he could step out of the banquet hall, a calm voice sounded from behind him, stopping him. You don't need to rush to chase after her. Someone is already following her. Tianya was slightly stunned. He stopped in his tracks and looked at Feng Ruching, confused. Someone is already chasing after them? When did that happen? Why haven't I seen that? Feng Ruching yawned languidly. Old master, do you know who Feng Lianyi is? Tianya touched his head blankly. Oh, I remember that she was being chased by the Nan family. The Nan family and I have never dealt with each other, so I rescued her. Regarding her background, it seems like her family abandoned her, but I did not ask much. Anyway, her family has never come for her even after so many years. Feng Ruching fell silent. Chinger, why are you asking about her background? Do you want to kill her family? Chinger, if this is what you want to do, just tell me so I can prepare my army and set off with you. Tianya sneered. No, I'm going to dig up her ancestors' graves. Chi Feng, Feng Lianqing, and all the people present were stunned. Tianya was regarded as a man of integrity, but what had happened to him now? He was going to kill Feng Lianyi's family only because of the mistakes that she had committed, and he was going to dig up someone's grave. Feng Lianqing supported his forehead, somewhat embarrassed. He did not want to admit that this old man was his master. Little Qing, I'm glad you're all right. Tianya smiled as he walked toward Feng Ruching. Suddenly his old face sank. Wait, who the hell got my precious granddaughter pregnant? Nanxian pulled Feng Ruching into his arms. It's me. Tian Ya's face showed mixed feelings. He thought about last night. He was actually scared of this man and had allowed him to leave without daring to chase after them. This was the shame of his life. Did I agree to that? Don't you need my permission to marry my granddaughter? Tian Ya's face was cold. You brat, take your hands off my precious granddaughter. Nanxian looked at the girl next to him and smiled gently. My father-in-law has agreed to this, and he couldn't wait to marry Qing to me. Feng Ruching was speechless. She only remembered that his father wanted to kill Nanxian. As expected, after hearing this, Tian Ya's old face was livid. Feng Tianwu, you bastard. They'll kill him when I go back. He has allowed my granddaughter to get married without even waiting for me. Me for extra chapters. His grandson-in-law had to be the most excellent man to be worthy of his precious granddaughter. He must also be loyal to her. This boy had not passed his test yet, so why did Feng Tianwu agree to this union? However, Tianyu was quite satisfied with Nanxian's looks. He was quite handsome and powerful. Nanxian, they've been gone for some time. I don't know if Xiao Zhu has discovered something or not. Let's go. We can follow them. Feng Ruching laughed coldly. I hope. Xiao will be fine. Tianya knew nothing about this, so they could not count on him anymore. Feng Lianyi hated Feng Ruqing, and she would be happy if Feng Ruqing did not get the answer she wanted. It seemed like Feng Lianyi would never tell her anything. Fortunately, she had a backup plan. All right, let's go. Nanxian wrapped his arm around Feng Ruqing's waist and headed out the door. In an instant, they had disappeared in front of the crowd. Tianya slightly frowned. My granddaughter must think that I'm useless. After all, he would not have been able to answer the first question from his beloved granddaughter. Master, you said that Feng Lianyi was being hunted by the Nan family back then. Is it true? The Nan family. They were the most powerful men in this land. No one could beat them. Why would Nan family hunt down Feng Lianyi? I had a grudge against the Nan family, and when I saw someone being hunted by them, of course, I rescued her. But if I had known that Feng Lianyi would turn like this, I wouldn't have even saved her in the first place. Back then, Feng Lianyi was still young and well-behaved. Every family had its problems, and when Feng Lianyi was kicked out, he could not bear to make her sadder, so he did not ask any questions about her family. He respected her privacy, and he had not even investigated her family history. Perhaps he did not take the people of this mainland seriously. He was unafraid, even if he had many enemies, because he did not think anyone could plot against him. However, he did not expect Feng Ruqing would appear. At the thought of this, Tianya was a bit frustrated and wished he had never saved Feng Lianyi. Master, shut up. Tianya turned to Feng Lianyi angrily. I haven't settled you yet. If you make any more sound, believe me, they'll kill you now. Have you forgotten the rules here? Feng Lianyi has accused my granddaughter. Even if she is an ordinary citizen, she must be expelled just based on this kind of action. Tianya was a caring grandfather. He would be overbearing and protective only for his granddaughter. But if it were not about Feng Ruqing, he would remain strict with all the rules. And you? Tianya looked at Qi Feng and smiled coldly. Feng Lianyi had done something wrong. Why didn't you punish her? Me for extra chapters. Qi Feng was startled and somewhat ashamed. Feng Lianyi is from General Manor. I am just... So, what if she's from General Manor? Do you think I'm a corrupt and unreasonable old man? She made a mistake that should have been dealt with long ago. And whether or not Qing'er is my granddaughter, the fault committed by Feng Lianyi must be severely punished. It was because these people had always let her off the hook that she became so daring to break the rules. So much, so she had almost harmed his precious granddaughter. Qi Feng shut his mouth. Under Tianya's monstrous rage, he was too wimpy to say a word. Old housekeeper. Tianya's face was cold. Is that bastard Jia Xian still around? The old housekeeper trembled in fear when Tianya shouted his name, but was relieved after hearing the question. General, that bastard refused to tell us how he could escape to Tsanyu mainland. So, I'm still keeping him around. One would lose all his strength if he used Jia Xin's method to go to Tsanyu mainland. Therefore, Jia Xian would never tell them, and he would prefer to be tortured and die. Bring him to me later, Tianya paused. A cold light flashed on his eyes. And since I want to check Feng Lianyi's background, my granddaughter wants to know about it. Then, they'll find out for her. Yes, General. The old housekeeper bowed and was about to leave. Wait, Tianya opened his mouth again. The old housekeeper trembled again and stopped in his tracks. He turned back with a pale face. Is there anything else, General? What did you do yesterday? Why didn't you say a word when Feng Lianyi took out a fake jade stone, and you had watched her bully others? If anything happens to my granddaughter, I will kick you out of General Manor. The old housekeeper's face stiffened. He knew that General would definitely settle the scores with them. General, I didn't know Feng Ruqing was the young lady. Feng Lianyi was a member of General Manor. I was afraid people would look down on General Manor, so he wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. His voice trembled. Tianya sneered. Now people have lost respect for General Manor. It's all because of you. Get out of here immediately. If you can't find Feng Lianyi, don't ever wish to come back. And the same goes for you. He turned his head and glared at Feng Lianqing. Feng Lianqing was too scared to say anything, only hoping to leave this place. Somehow, seeing Feng Lianqing's miserable looks, Hellion, you could not help but smile happily. Who asked this bastard to hold Feng Lianyus back? Now he's being punished, right? You deserve it. Feng Lianqing also saw the flicker of pride in Hellion Yu's eyes. He was a bit dumbfounded. Back then, whenever his master was scolding him, Hellion Yu would always come and protect him. This time, he felt that he no longer had a place in Hellion Yu's heart. Not as much as in the past, outside of Wushang City. The woman dressed in blue stopped and threw Feng Lianyi, who was already half dead, onto the ground. Her face was cold and expressionlessly. Feng Lianyi, I just left Wushang City for a few days, but you've given me so many troubles, and I've almost exposed myself in front of Tianya. The wind lifted her veil, revealing that delicate face. Her gaze was fierce. As soon as Feng Lianyi left General Manor, she felt her mind was in a mess, and she had almost fainted from the pain. If it were not for the bumpy journey, she would have been unconscious long ago. Seeing that Feng Lianyi was in pain and unable to speak, the woman reached out and pulled out a piece of spirit herb from her lapel and shoved it into Feng Liany's mouth. Me for extra chapters. Eat it. Feng Lianyi swallowed the pills with a grunt, and the pain started to ease quite a bit. However, her broken arm was still hurting. I didn't do it on purpose. Besides, I didn't expose you, right? Feng Liany's voice was a little weak, drifting away with the breeze. The woman sneered. If I hadn't appeared in time, who could have guaranteed that you would not confess before you died? Her rescue was so smooth that she could not even believe it herself. There was also a hint of hidden uneasiness in her heart. Feng Lianyi pursed her lips. This woman doesn't trust me at all. Since Tianyu was so protective of Feng Ruqing, then why should she expose her? Tianyu would still kill her either way. I didn't expose you because now I want to destroy General Manor too. Feng Lianyi raised her eyes. The depths of those eyes were filled with resentment and anger. The woman laughed sarcastically. Unfortunately, you're no longer useful to me. I'll spare your life as you're quite obedient, but your stupidity will eventually get you into trouble. She had warned Feng Lianyi more than once to stay away from Feng Ruqing, but Feng Lianyi had ignored her warnings and caused many troubles. She just never expected that Tianya would have a granddaughter. You don't care about me anymore? Feng Lianyi panicked and grabbed the woman's sleeve. You can't leave me alone. I have nowhere else to go now. My father is so busy with that vixen. He won't even care about me. The woman pushed Feng Lianyi's hand away impatiently. Isn't that old master of the Duan family protecting you? No matter what, Duan Xiong wouldn't dare to disobey the Duan family's old master's orders. You better go back to them. Feng Lianyi's face was pale, trembling. Grandfather is helping me, but I'm just a girl. The most important person in the Duan family is my brother. Besides, the Duan family is still keeping my mother because they thought Tianya is protecting me. Her grandfather had tried every possible way to make her father agree to marry her mother back then, because her mother was her grandmother's niece, and both families were close. Her grandparents had deliberately set them up, causing her mother to become pregnant before they married. However, her father still could not forget that vixen. The good thing was that the vixen left his father, and later, her grandfather had threatened to kill that vixen, making it impossible for that bitch and her child to return to the Duan family again. After that vixen had left, she thought her mother could marry her father, but he still rejected her. Her grandfather had no other choice than let her mother enter the family as a concubine. She did not marry him, so she could only be a concubine. Not long after, her mother's family lost their political power, and they needed to rely on the Duan family. Her grandfather had an obsessive desire for power. He turned against her father to satisfy her mother's family, but he refused to help them and reunite with her father when they lost their power. Fortunately, she had met the woman in front of her. She was the one who sent her to Tianya. Me for extra chapters. Back then, when Tianya was in the limelight, her grandfather had the intention to befriend him. He was even more eager to get close to Tianya after he knew Tianya had reached King Warrior tier. Hearing that she was treated as a young lady in general manner, her grandfather had again forced her father to marry her mother. Therefore, if they knew Tianya had kicked her out of general manner, would the Duan family still treat her nicely? Don't leave me. I can't go back to the Duan family. My father is so crazy about that vixen. He's been trying to find his bastard, illegitimate child all these years and doesn't care if I live or die. The woman frowned. That mute is your father's legal wife. If her child is a bastard, where are you? Feng Liani stiffened, annoyed. Don't lecture me in such a tone. Don't think I don't know that. You like Tianya, and you've confessed him back then. However, he rejected you, and that's why you hate him so much. You want to kill him, but you can't beat him. What are you talking about? The woman shouted harshly. Don't speak nonsense, or it'll rip your mouth off. Oh, have I said anything wrong? No matter how well you hide it, your voice is different every time you mention him. Do you like Tianya's old face? Or his status? Who do you think you are? You're only a lovesick woman. So who are you to lecture me? Snap! The woman slapped her so hard that her face was swollen like a pig's head. Shut up, Feng Liani. Who the hell are you to lecture me? If I hadn't brought you out of Yanhuan Kingdom back then, do you think you would have a good life all these years? Can a bastard like Duan Xiong let you enjoy living like a noble young lady in the Duan family? You and your mother will be kicked out of Duan Manor once your grandfather and your father reunite. Feng Lianqing sneered. You're wrong. Grandfather can never make peace with my father as long as that vixen is still alive. Father hated him, and father would never forgive him. If I was in the Duan family, even if grandfather didn't love me as much as he used to, at least, I wouldn't suffer like now. After all, my Duan family is one of the great families with imperial blood in Yunhuan Kingdom. Feng Liani lifted her chin, trying to make herself look arrogant, not yielding to this woman. Suddenly, a voice filled with excitement interrupted their conversation. The Duan family of Yunhuan Kingdom? Hee hee. This time, I found out such important information. I wonder how the princess will praise me. I'm sure she won't threaten to make me into snake soup again. Feng Liani stiffened. She lowered her head and followed the voice. In a split second, a snake was seen coming out of her dress. It was a green snake that looked slippery and disgusting, giving her goosebumps. You, Qing Zhu smiled. I want to thank you for telling me this information. So the Duan family is a part of Yunhuan Kingdom's imperial family. It's not in vain that I've been hiding for so long. I almost died because of your smell. How many days has it been since you last taken a bath? Hearing Qing Zhu's mocking words, Feng Liani should have been furious, but she was so frightened that her eyes widened, her body trembled, and her face was incomparably pale. Why is a snake on my body? Me for extra chapters. Ah! Feng Liani screamed and threw up her hand, throwing off the slippery Qing Zhu. Qing Zhu rolled a few times and landed on the ground. It shook its muddled head and looked back at them. It then turned around and tried to escape. The woman's face changed dramatically. She absolutely could not let this green snake escape and expose her secret to Tianya. Therefore, she did not have time to settle the score with Feng Liani. She moved as fast as the wind to chase after the snake. Qing Zhu turned back and saw the woman was chasing after it. Qing Zhu was so scared that it hurriedly ran away, crying, Master, Princess, come and save me. Bad people are trying to make me into snake soup. Save me. Qing Zhu panicked. No matter how fast it was, it still could not match the woman's speed. I should not carelessly expose myself just now. I should have waited until this woman has left before appearing. A weak chicken like Feng Liani can't do anything to me. But didn't this woman and Feng Liani turn against each other? Why are they still chasing me? Oh no, I've not married and become a parent yet. I don't want to be a bowl of snake soup on a human table. A murderous aura filled the entire forest. Just as the woman appeared in front of Qing Zhu, a surge of powerful force suddenly came fiercely from the front and turned into countless swords, attacking the woman. The woman sidestepped the attack. She raised her head and saw a man in a white robe not far away. Her face instantly sank behind the light veil. The man in white robes was as handsome as an immortal, and there was a stunning red-dressed woman next to him. The two of them were like an immortal couple, standing together perfectly. "You're lucky today." Her cold and stern gaze swept toward the scared little snake as she sneered. "They'll give you this woman, Feng Lianyi. I shouldn't have saved this woman if I knew she was so stupid." As soon as she said these words, the woman immediately turned around and fled away. "Qinger, you wait for me here." Then Xian's eyes sank. His white robes flapped in the wind, and in the blink of an eye, the man had disappeared. The forest fell silent. The breeze carried warmth, but it made Feng Lianyi's heart grow cold. Her face was pale as she bit her lip and looked at Feng Ruching resentfully. Qing Zhu went to Feng Ruching and cried pitifully. "Princess, you've finally come. I was almost made into a snake soup by this little bitch. You have to kill this little bitch for me." Feng Ruching raised her hand and grabbed Qing Zhu with her hand. She raised her eyes, gazing down at Feng Lianyi. Feng Lianyi sneered. "Feng Ruching, I was unlucky to have fallen into your hands. Do you think you are stronger than me? Ridiculous. You're only strong because you're Tianya's granddaughter, and if his granddaughter were me, I would definitely be better than you." Tianya was a great, strong man, and Feng Ruching had inherited his talent. However, if Feng Lianyi were his granddaughter, she would become more excellent than Feng Ruching. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruching's long hair fluttered in the wind as she walked toward Feng Lianyi. "But the person who grew up with Tianya is you. The one who has been taught by General Tianya is you. And the one who can freely enter the Spirit Herb Store is also you. Everyone in General Manor has treated you well. So what makes you think you could be better than me?" Feng Lianyi laughed sarcastically. "I just don't have that old man's bloodline. I was useless until I was 16. Feng Ruching stopped and looked at Feng Lianyi expressionlessly. "My life was so horrible. I was fat and ugly, but fortunately I did have good luck. It was because she had good luck and met Qing Han and Fu Chan to turn her life around. So, Feng Lianyi, what makes you think that you can be stronger than me if you were his granddaughter?" Feng Ruching smiled faintly. "My grandfather is quite good in all other aspects, but not a good judge of character. But it doesn't matter. He is my grandfather, and I won't let anyone humiliate him, even if that person was raised by him." In an instant, countless sword lights appeared and attacked Feng Lianyi. Feng Lianyi's eyes widened, and fear grew in her heart. She turned around and tried to flee, but she could not escape the sword lights no matter how fast she was. In an instant, it drenched her in blood, and the bright red blood poured from the wounds, staining the ground. Feng Lianyi turned back, staring at Feng Ruching. Her eyes were filled with deep hatred, as if she wanted to carve the woman's name who had caused her to die so tragically into her mind, never to be forgotten. However, in the end, she fell and was never able to get up again. Feng Ruching looked down at Qing Zhu, which she was carrying in her hands. "Xiao Zhu, what did you find out?" She narrowed her eyes, her gaze threatening, and if Qing Zhu dared to say it had not heard anything, she would also dare to choke it to death. "Princess, would you make me into snake soup if I said I didn't know anything?" Qing Zhu lifted its small head. It's a bit troublesome to rip out Feng Lianyi's soul and question it. So, the woman's fierce eyes made Qing Zhu tremble in fear. I'm just joking. I've got a lot of information from Feng Lianyi. That's why they wanted to kill me." Feng Ruching put the snake down and asked indifferently, "Tell me, who exactly Feng Lianyi is?" She came from the Duan family of Yunhuan Kingdom. I've heard that the Duan family is related to the imperial family of Yunhuan Kingdom. It should be quite easy to find them. Yunhuan Kingdom? This name, it seems somewhat familiar. It seems that the prince who came to General Manor to look for Feng Lianyi is from Yunhuan Kingdom. Little pot flew over, buzzing around Feng Ruching. "Little Guogua, spit that guy out." Buzz. The lid blew off, and a young man was spat out of the pot. This young man no longer had his initial arrogance, and even though his eyes were very bright, there was also a bit of submission in them. Master, he was so respectful. Feng Ruqing was stunned. She looked at the pot blankly. You've tamed him? Me for extra chapters. Buzz. Little pot flew around Feng Ruqing excitedly, as if it was waiting for her praise. Feng Ruqing stroked her chin. It seems that this prince is just a bit bad-tempered and rude. He's a bit ugly, but not so stubborn. Little pot could only tame someone like him. However, if that person were as stubborn as Feng Liani, even if Little Pot became stronger, there would be no way for her to submit to Feng Ruqing. What's your name? Feng Ruqing raised her eyebrows and turned to the prince. The prince replied respectfully, Master, my name is Lin Xuani. Feng Ruqing was slightly startled. Such a gentle name. It doesn't fit him. Oh, then do you know the Duan family of Yinhuan Kingdom? The young man's expression was still respectful. Master, the Duan family is a family under my father. He's not an officer in the imperial court, but he's still one of the great men among the families. Then do you know who Feng Liani is in the Duan family? Feng Liani? Lin Xuani looked confused. Isn't she Tian Ya's servant? What connection does she have to the Duan family? I haven't heard of her. Feng Ruqing's eyes sank. Feng Liani left the Duan family when she was a child. Do you know of any missing girls in the Duan family? This thing Lin Xuani frowned and thought. I remember that Duan Xiong of the Duan family once had 2 daughters. One of them was his real wife's child, but the Duan family did not accept her as their daughter-in-law. Then, the mother and daughter disappeared. As for the other one, she was the second latest daughter and was also lost as a child. The people of the Duan family probably knew where she went, but no one has said anything about it. Feng Ruqing turned around and looked straight at Feng Liani in the pool of blood, smiling coldly. Now, you should know that Feng Liani is that second latest daughter. Lin Xuani was stunned. This little slut Feng Liani is a young lady of the Duan family? Why is a young lady working as a servant in General Manor? There's no need for you to know about these things. Feng Ruqing glanced at Lin Xuani coldly. You've destroyed General Manor, so go back and apologize. Don't forget to tell the old master, Tianya, he'll go find the Duan family in Yinhuan Kingdom and return soon. Yes, master. And change your name. All right, master. Feng Ruqing rubbed her forehead, trying to ease the tension on her head. Xiaozhu, you go find Xian while I'll go to Yinhuan Kingdom first. If he can't catch that woman, just let her go. She will definitely come out again since she has a grudge against Tianya. Well, wait for her. She must have something to do with the Nan family. With the Nan family status, they couldn't put their foot down to chase and kill a young girl. Therefore, Feng Ruqing had a hunch that the Nan family hunted Feng Liani in front of Tian. It was purposely arranged by someone. That person, and the woman dressed in blue, just now must have known each other. She had to ask Tianya, who he had dealt with from the Nan family at that time. Princess, can I just leave a mark for my master? He will naturally know where to find us when he sees the mark. Qing Zhu grunted. It did not feel comfortable to leave Feng Ruqing alone. It was afraid that she would be seduced by the demonic slut who had taken her soul away. It was better to watch her close. If any little slut dared to seduce its princess, it would poison that slut. All right, when Qing Zhu put it that way, Feng Ruqing was no longer worried that Nanxian would not be able to find her. She was silent for a moment and looked sideways at Yinhuan Kingdom. Give me the map to Yinhuan Kingdom. Me for extra chapters. All right, master. Lin Xuani took out a map from his pouch and respectfully handed it over to Feng Ruqing. Feng Ruqing stared at him blankly. You carry a map with you? Yes. The military advisor who led the group here this time has a poor sense of direction and could easily get lost without the map and compass. The military advisor has a poor sense of direction? Feng Ruqing laughed coldly. However, she did not give it much thought and quickly took the map. Xiaozhu, let's go. General Manor. Everyone else had taken their leave except for the imperial family and the Hellion family, who stayed behind. Tianya was dressed in red, holding a cat in his hand lazily. His eyes were cold. Where's the housekeeper? He still hasn't found out who Feng Lianya's family is? If that old man can't find out about it within 3 days, tell him to not come back again. Feng Lianqing was startled. Master, it's a bit difficult to find that out in 3 days. It will at least take a few months. After all, Land of No Return is so big, and you didn't ask much about her background before. It's impossible to find her in 3 days without any clue. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.